Okay, well, welcome everybody. We actually, the four of us, I know Deanna, but I have not met Fleur or Mayya. Is Mayya how you say it?
Yes, yeah, that's
Mayya?
correct.
Mayya.
I'm Roz Dimon. I'm an artist who has been involved in digital for quite a long time, but we are getting together today to just casually get to know one another for a possible article in the Now magazine for National Association of Women Artists. And even though we know there are a lot more people, I mean, so many people are doing digital now. The four of us were put together, and I was advised by others to select a few people. And they selected a few people for me. So I've been so busy. I don't know about you guys, but I have not had time to even look at your work. And I'm really sorry about that. But maybe we just quickly introduce ourselves, and then I thought I'd just put out a few questions and we share screen and just go from there and just see what happens. I think we just need to get to know who are these other artists? Why are you in digital? Which will be one of my first questions. But first, I'm just going to say my name is Roz Dimon. I live on Shelter Island. I'm originally from the South, but I lived in New York New York City since 1981. And I'm with Carter Burden Gallery and just very pleased to be a new member of NAWA. Really short introduction. Whoever wants to go next.
Oh, I can go. My name is Mayya Bork, and I'm a Russian-American artist. I've been living in the States for the past 10 years and just recently moved to New York a year and a half ago. And just this spring, I joined NAWA, so I'm new to this organization as well. And I'm very pleased to be there. And I've been doing art since I remember myself. I went to the digital art, to the digital medium gradually because originally I was trained in the traditional way to draw and paint. But little by little, I started drafting from it, drafting the part. But I do both, actually. I love traditional way. I love pencil and ballpoint pens. It's my passion. But for me, the digital medium is irreplaceable when it comes to freelancing. That's how I make money. Well, that's the territory where art becomes the design.
I'm cutting you off.
We can talk about it later.
Yes,
yeah, let's just.
We will, even though I know
yeah.
I was about to drool on for hours too.
Sorry about that. Yeah, let's keep moving.
Yeah, we will get into it, but it sounds fascinating.
Yeah. I'll go next.
Okay. I'm letting light in my studio. Go ahead.
I am Deanna Avila, and I've been a member of NAWA since the COVID closure. So what was that, 2021? And none of us got to meet together or be inducted. Everything was done online. But I've been an artist since 2017 and a digital artist, and I've never wandered outside of digital. I do a lot of algorithmic art, fractal art, and abstract.
And you're in Florida, right?
Florida, Sarasota, Florida, yes.
Great. And Mayya, you're in the city, New York?
Yeah, a financial district.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted, but I just thought it's interesting in Zoom to get placement because
it's
amazing.
That's me.
Thanks. We'll get back to more. And Fleur?
I'm in Rye, New York. I am also a new member. I've been a new member I've been a member of NAWA for a year now. I am French originally. I lived in the US for 20 years. Used to live in California. And I moved to New York 2 years ago. And I, found out about NAWA and thought it was fantastic. So I applied and got in. And I applied with my digital art to be a member of NAWA, knowing that it was also okay to show everything else. But I'm trying to push, a bit more my digital work. And I'm really glad we're having this meeting today because it might answer a lot of my questions.
Oh, good. You mean about what?
Oh, you know, it's the interesting thing with digital art. It's a new type of art, you know, new kind of.
Yes and no.
Yes and
I've
no.
got gray hair. I'm a little older than the rest of you, but
Not that much, Russ.
But you know, it's the idea that artists are more like started using it faster than galleries got ready to show it.
absolutely, yes.
And so it's still like one of my problematic with digital is the fact that it's an amazing medium for artists. We can work really fast with it. We can use it to doing research. We can show the finished product. So there is a lot of options, but it doesn't, like when you start applying for galleries or contests or all of that, they're not ready for that. They don't understand where to put it. They don't understand, like they don't, you know, if you apply for like a photograph, like a gallery or contest, they don't want it. If you apply to be for like a fine art gallery or fine art contest, they don't want it either because they're like, you can reproduce it by just printing it. So it doesn't work for us. So slowly galleries are starting to understanding how it works and the, you know, amazing things artists can create with that technique.
I
But,
agree.
yeah.
And we're already getting into, I'm going to interrupt because I'm going to monitor just a little, if you don't mind. Big bossy Roz, but I did initiate it. So I want to keep us on a certain track, but all the comments have been wonderful. But already, Fleur, you got us into what I guess I thought I'd do first. The way I'm seeing this, just casually us get together, why digital? And you already explained some about it and the whole scene. And let's all talk about that. And then I thought, if you want to, we can share the screen and just show a few pieces or bring something up to the screen, or if you don't want to, you don't have to. But why digital? What meaning for it does it have in the future? And maybe what kind of tools we use with our own, not quite a how-to, but the whole how it goes from digital to the wall, which you kind of brought up those topics. But you can keep going. I interrupted you a little bit. We are in the phase of let's all talk about why digital and why we're in it, you know. So I did interrupt you, but I liked what you were saying about the whole scene. That it's tough. Yeah, it's very tough with the fine art scene. Yeah.
Can I pop in? Can I just pop in really
we can just
quickly?
raise our hand. There are only 4 of us.
Okay. So I met with the NAWA panel about 1.5 years ago about how does digital fit into the exhibitions? And so we worked through a lot of stuff. So NAWA is on board with that, as you can see, Roz. And on the gallery front, I actually got into a Sarasota gallery back in August as a digital fine artist. So, and I've added AR to my art. And I was part of an article recently in Sarasota about bringing digital to the art scene. So it's
great. And your story is so unique. I mean, you know,
yeah.
I mean, what's interesting to me is maybe we can all say real quickly, I started in digital, or what, you know, how you started or when you began, and there's no contest there. It doesn't matter how long you've been in it. I don't think that necessarily makes you a master or not. I mean, there's a saying sometimes that I hear from some of my fine artist friends that, like, you know, if you don't, a person who paints on Sunday is just a Sunday painter. And my response to that is often, hey, you know what? Some people paint better on Sunday than others do 7 days a week. And I mean, and you know what? Always artists in the Renaissance and all times, they were doing commercial work. They had to live. You have to live. So I don't buy that whole, I mean, I think there is a difference, but, oh, this is where I lose my train of thought. I can't remember what I was going to say in the first place, but that's sort of how my mind works. But yeah, where were we?
Question about why I started, you know, working with digital. I thought that I love trying new techniques. Like,
and when did you start? That's what it is. Excuse me, Fleur,
Oh.
but when did you? I'm going to just say I started. And it was all an accident because, like, one of my paintings behind me, Picasso's Woman. If you know that from her blue period, I plugged her in. I had squares going through her body, and all these electronic squares in New York and even before in Atlanta, Georgia, in the 80s, early 80s, they were just infiltrating my oils. And like some of you, I think Fleur had said, or maybe it was Mayya, I'm sorry, I can't remember, but natural media, which is what they're now calling it apparently in academia, it was my first, I can barely operate a toaster. So for me to go into digital had to be an art thing. So I'm just saying when I started 19, like 80 in the 80s, information paintings and digital in 84. And I'm passing it back to you, Fleur, as to when you started, and please tell us more.
Oh, probably less than 10 years ago. It's when I got an iPad. Like I got an iPad and
And
I
why did
just
you get an iPad? Was it for art, or you just like one-on-one like everybody, you know?
no,
Yeah.
it was to replace my watercolors when traveling. It was like I was trying to find an easier way to sketch and be creative on the go, like just having, you know, something I could keep with me. And so I bought an iPad because I have heard that you could copy the different techniques with you know, like you could make something made digitally look like a watercolor, or make it look like an oil, or, you know, like look like you're working with pencils. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. It looks like an easier way to work when I'm not in the studio. So let's try that.
How about I know that Diana started like in 2017, and her story, she just went off, but she'll come back. And I'm going to go to Mayya and we'll come back to more of our process. But Mayya, when did you start and why?
Yeah, I think I started it trying it in college. It was maybe 2005 or 6. I just got it. I got my first tablet, you know, to try it out, and I did some projects on it, but I also kept it for some personal work, for illustrations and stuff, to experiment, you know. But I never thought that I would work on it for money or something, you know. I just was playing with it. But yeah, it's been a while since I tried it. I mean, first time tried it, and I kept working on it since. I mean, I already have different tablets. I've rated it several times because
Are you exclusively on digital at this point? Are you?
no, not at all. I love to work with my hands because it's a completely different story. It's something magical happens when you work with, you know, the traditional tools. I don't know, for me personally, it's always about the personal preferences, what drives you.
And I love how we're all coming from different arenas and different areas. And that's what I think makes this a kind of interesting discussion. My friend who used to be the art editor, he's really a great painter, kind of a Renaissance man, Paul Trachtman at Smithsonian, once made me aware of the fact that digital, actually, you know, when you think of digit, it's finger. I mean, the word is digit. And my mission has been to bring touch to the digital world.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing you brought up about touch, there is true. It's so different than when you got your hands into a canvas, you know, but in some way, because that Wacom pen can feel my touch, I'm trying to bring that out. Diana, your mission is it's so different. And
It's
so
different. And I was never an artist at all or interested in art before 2017, but I have multiple sclerosis and traumatic brain injury, and I had a relapse, and I came out of this relapse with colors and synesthesia and a desire to create. And that's my story in like a nutshell. I am not able to handle traditional medium like brushes, or because of multiple sclerosis in my hands. So I work with iPad, with the MacBook Pro, even my phone. Everything's digital for me. And
you've written a book. You can talk about
a book and a children's book coming out, but a book called Soldier Sister Savant, because I was diagnosed with something called acquired savantism. Like Rain Man, think of Rain Man, you have like splinter skills. I'm doing a talk with NAWA noon, or what's it? It's
shout out.
No, with Farron. Art in Conversation with Farron is coming out this month, so you can see the story.
Wow, you know, NAWA's doing so much. I don't know about you folks, ladies, but I've just been very impressed with how much is going on there. And there's
a new exhibit too. I just got it, the Frozen Dreams and Abstract Realities, but it's only,
Online.
the deadline is December 5th.
Mhm.
So it's a quick one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to enter
I
that.
just entered.
Yeah. Well, let's keep talking a little bit, like, how do we, why digital, and how do we tell our story? Because I think one thing I noticed all of us talking about is how, being in this new medium, that, you know, that I've thought is just the thing happening in the world. It's still, it takes so long. It takes a lifetime when you're doing something new, even with our exponential kind of cultural digital scene that we're in right now. I mean, we're already going to AI where maybe all of us will be replaced.
Yeah,
I
never.
think that's, well, maybe
No.
not. Maybe not.
Nothing takes away
Um,
the human touch, but I can say, like, what I have done in my town of Sarasota is I've gotten local reporters and talk digital. And I've been selling art locally because people are beginning to understand it. And so that's where we can have impact in NOWA by saying, okay, it's on a screen, but the talent used and the ability to learn applications and you know, manipulate them, that's a whole different area. And that digital can be put on any different type of substrate. So once you help people understand that, they're like, oh, cool. Really,
I mean, you know, when I create a piece, it is, a lot of it is about telling our story. So it's fun we're having this dialogue. You know, when I create a piece, I started with 4 colors on an IBM and I was thrilled, but it doesn't compare to the way that I could paint. I mean, I actually love drawing and painting and could do it since I was well, drawing I got as a gift from my grandparents, but you certainly have to cultivate it. And I found that for me, the tool and the medium is a form of expression. I got into it merely because the squares were obliterating my canvases. I was no longer painting with this brush. I was painting electricity. And I gave up that brush reluctantly. I have like 20 pieces like this from what I called my information paintings. But it's interesting to hear how we're all coming at it from different angles. But the whole medium, like now, you know, we've got millions of colors. We've got a huge Wacom tablet next to the screen I'm looking at with a touch pen that feels what I'm trying to say. And I would say the drawings for me are still very much about making a certain edge with the way the drawing is made. That is a digital mark that can't be made any other way. Surely it's my Ra's kind of mark, but it's a digital mark, and it speaks to the time we're in. And that's one distinction, a big distinction in art.
yeah.
You know, it's affecting our world so much. But now on Millions of Colors, in my new paintings I'm doing that are really, I'm loading my paintbrush with photos. It'll next be videos. It's hundreds and hundreds of layers, like when you're looking at your iPhone, made into one Beeple layer. I was doing that. I mean, a lot of us were doing it before Beeple, but good for him. I thought that was a cool piece, actually. If you know about him, where he sold this thing on at Sotheby's for what, 68 million or something. But these pieces I'm doing they're a final image. It's still a painting, like that piece on the wall over there behind me, Pale Mail. It's in the 9/11 Memorial Collection. And it's in a few other collections because it's an edition of 10. But it's, when I make it, I decide how big and how the high resolution now. I mean, my early pieces, I mean, democracy's ugly, and digital, my early digital, they were not nearly as beautiful. People say, Roz, why aren't you doing the way you used to paint? But I have to say, it's been the most exciting interruption in my life. And it got me into commercial art. It got me into fine art. In the 90s, I was a big part of the upcoming .com. And, you know, I was making a huge salary down at the World Trade Center, where I always worked to support my habit. And I was always influenced by what was doing. And I love learning about fonts and, you know, that whole separation of fine art and commercial. And you younger folks, I'd like to hear your point of view about it. I always like to expand categories and not restrict them. But, you know, in the Renaissance, artisans, they worked on their craft with making these great things together. And not everybody was a Michelangelo or a Gentileschi, you know, but I do think they work together. And I think that's happening now, at least with younger artists. And I'm going to be quiet. You can tell the moderator, Roz, you've talked enough. Let's hear a little bit more from Fleur and Mayya.
Go ahead, Mayya.
You know, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you started talking about digital art and how lots of possibilities it has, and talking about the benefits. You can experiment. There are experiments that are only possible in the digital world, like applying watercolor on top of the oil paint and blurring the line between the real and unreal. So
Mhm. Yeah.
we have the endless possibilities. But
Yeah.
with that comes the other side of the medal, because it can be intimidating when you have so much choices. It's exciting.
Excellent point. Yes. Some people can't stand it. They just can't, they just too many options.
You
gotta
can
know
do
what you're doing.
anything, literally anything with it. But
Yeah.
maybe that's why I love the traditional media, because it gives me the adrenaline, you know, like with the pen, regular ballpoint pen, when you draw, you can't erase. So you
Yeah,
have to
right,
be
exactly.
you have to be completely conscious about your every little movement. So
Yeah.
every stroke, you have to think about it. It gives me the thrills. I don't know, but I do love digital art, and it has a lot of potential, because it's yet to be discovered what we can do with it.
Oh, I
So many
agree.
things, so many things. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you work with AI. I've tried it many times. I usually work with Midjourney. Midjourney, yeah. And I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about it,
Mhm.
because it's not digital art when you actually
Yeah. It's
hold
a
it,
different thing. You're right. It's different.
you just give the commands. It's fun to play with.
But don't you
Also,
think it's interesting? I love your thing about choices. I think that is so true. I mean, when you can make 6 million layers in something, or choose to turn something off or on, that's another good point. But your whole thing about AI, is I think it's what we feed it. And it could be argued, at least from conceptual artists' point of view, that you'll say, oh, they're not an artist. They just tell their assistants or their team what to do. Well, you know what? I mean, if you're the brainstorm artist ideas, it's also execution though, and it's also touch.
you
I
still
mean,
can.
I really think we should raise the bar on digital art. I see a lot of stuff out there, little pussy cats and stuff. People go, oh, wow, it's digital art. But they're not seeing a lot of really the great work that's being done. I mean, there's an international group called Texpressionism that I'm a part of, that you're welcome to come
Yeah.
listen into if you want. We've had one big show out here in the Hamptons that became like a big splash, and all of our work was output to different
I'm sorry to interrupt. What it's called, you said?
Expressionism.
expressionism.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that's where Diana we met, didn't we? On
Yes,
Texpression.
it is, of course. Yes.
But I'm not. I like to stay open to and listen to what people are saying, and how they come at it. And I do want to hear more from Fleur, but just because you're not using it as a medium, it's always interesting to hear how, for instance, how Diana came into it totally as a savant, in a way, her way to do it. And with Mayya, you're saying that you didn't really expect to keep doing, but then you saw the possibilities. And I don't think you have to come at it as an expression. I would say, to me, that's very important, reflecting our world. But I think one difference is, I mean, I'm looking at the work behind you, Fleur, and it looks really interesting. I don't know whether it's digital or not, because to me, when people call me a digital artist, I'm an artist. It just happens to be a medium I've become part of. But where I think the problem is, and I'd like to hear what you have to say, Fleur, about this, is one of the big problems with fine art and commercial or going into galleries, and why they say it's the giclée thing. If you can take a painting and you can make a giclée print, and I don't have any problems. People have been making, lithographs, etchings, all this forever. But where the wrench is, and I'm sort of getting why, and maybe we can discuss it, is, I've turned in things at times where people thought, oh, this is just a drawing, and she just made a digital print of it.
Mm.
And we have to distinguish ourselves from that. And it's fine to make a giclée print, and I think it's absolutely fine, but it's just coming at it from a totally different place, which I think we need to talk to, and how we represent our work. I mean, I put my work into Nawa at first, and there was some question about it. I do these pieces that go really large, but when you have to submit them and they're small, you can't really see the edge work in them. And I didn't send in crops, so we do have to be smart about how we talk about our work. But Fleur, I'm looking at your pieces. Tell us more about your work, and also I'd like to hear how you feel about the giclée thing, if you have anything to say about that versus whatever.
No, so what's behind me is mixed media. So it's you know, like, because I paint with everything I can find. Like I do watercolors, I do acrylic, I do oils, I also did printmaking, like classic printmaking. So digital is just part of what I do. It's just a layer on layer on layers of, you know, techniques that I just enjoy, and just going from one to the other just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Also realizing that some of my art, I will be creating one specific artwork in one specific technique. So I don't reproduce the same type of artwork in different techniques. Like each technique goes with a different artwork.
Yeah. Same
So-
here. I take a digital and put it into painting, but some people do.
Absolutely. And it's completely, you know, it's completely fine. It just, for me, the way, like, the way it appears in my mind, like, it just, okay, this artwork needs to be done in this specific technique. And for the digital art, it's, I use it for two things. The first is sketches to get ready for a painting. So I do, you know, that's how I work. And then artworks that I will sell that are specifically digital are a series of work on trying to imagine our life if with climate change and if we had to live underwater.
Mm.
Oh,
And so it's very, very specific, and it's how, you know, it's how it takes shape.
it's
But
what? It's high tech?
no, it's just you know, I work on my iPad, and it's printed on metal. So it's this idea: how do you present the work to galleries,
Yeah.
and how do you make it? How do you give it value when it's something that is a multiple, like you can repeat, which
Yes.
is different. So which is different from the traditional printmaking, where when you print the copper plate, after maybe 20 times, the copper flattens and you cannot get a good print from it anymore, which
This
gives
is yeah. That's a great point. I'm going to bring up something. I was in Forbes magazine, yes, with David Hockney back in 1990. And it was all about the title article was, "What am I offered for this floppy disk?" Now, some of you may not have ever seen a floppy disk, but we were working on those. And to your point about value, one of my collectors who has collected my paintings went through my digital, and I'm sure I'm going to be going back to oils at some point here. He stuck with me through the whole transition, and he said, you know, it's all about the trust of a collector for the artist. So but also we need to tell these stories so people understand. But it really is about trust, because of course I could make, instead of pale mail 10 of these, I could make 100, but you've been able to do that for quite a while, and with photography and other means. So I think your point, bringing it up, is a good one about copies, but telling our process. I also, if you'll also comment on this, anybody who wants to, is, you know, the whole thing, I used to put digital painting, and I would submit something, and it was printed, you know, beautiful ink on paper. And they would go, and they go, but this isn't a digital painting. And so now I put, you know, I put, you know, pigment ink on archival rag, you know, sunset velvet rag, but I still feel compelled to put a digital drawing output to that medium. And I'm curious how any of you deal with that, but yeah, I don't know.
I agree, you know, even with the gallery that I'm in, I mean, I'm doing originals and doing short series, either, you know, 5 or 10. But the pieces I put in there are usually like a 1 of 1 or 1 of 2. And that's the agreement. And I'm good with that because I'm pretty prolific with my art. But it is a trust thing. And it's learning to change the language too. And I've worked with the gallery on the word fabrication being a more accurate word when it comes to like printing on metal, fabricating on metal, fabricating on acrylic, which is what I do a lot. That kind of sets my work apart because people go up to it and they can kind of see into it, and I do. So like,
do you actually title it? Do you say, you know, digital painting, fabrication on acrylic or something?
Yeah,
do you title
yeah,
that way?
that's what we do.
As a medium?
Yeah.
Interesting.
High definition, low glare acrylic.
What's
and
that?
High definition, low glare acrylic.
Yeah. Nice.
It's all, it's the language. And that's what I think in this article, we need to redo the thinking.
Yeah.
Put us, because I've never done anything besides digital art. And I have fought for that fine art, designation. And finally it's gotten recognized. And I think that's what we can do for now too.
Yeah, great point.
But
Mayya,
also,
yeah.
it's not because you can print unlimited print of something that you're going to sell unlimited print of that artwork. Unlimited doesn't give extra value to, like, I mean, there is that idea that, oh, she can print it over and over again, so she will do it. It's not true. Like, there is, because to give value to something, it needs also to be unique, even if it can be multiplied.
Right.
So it's a fine balance between, as you say, the trust that there is between the collector and the artist, that you're not gonna, print 2,000 of the same thing, but you wouldn't do that to yourself anyway.
Right.
You, as an artist, you're not gonna lower the value of your work by printing it nonstop. Also, finding the buyer, like, there is no interest in finding multiple buyers to only one piece, like, for the creativity of the artists. Like, our interest is research and creation, like creativities of things. So we're not.
And yet you can make, that I guess I mean, some of my pieces now go, especially my oil paintings that led into this, are going for, they're at 20, 30,000. But I don't mind if someone who loves something pays a certain amount a month. I'm democratic in the heart. And I think that anyone should be able to have a great, even a great work of art if they can. I don't like the whole thing that it's all rarefied and at the very top rung in the 1%. Now, this is just me. But I do sometimes make an edition, but the largest one I've ever done, to your point, Fleur, is 20, 20. But at that, I can then, make an edition of 19 by 13 by 19 with my archival digital Epson printer with beautiful inks that I print, and really make them so these people can afford them, and yet, but so it's kind of a balance. And yet when there's a one of one, and the fact that I'm having a name in digital more, my oil paintings are getting more attention. And what's that story? Where did they come from in this age that we're in? But we all can go at it from different angles. But these are great things to talk about, and money.
But
we have to live.
unfortunately, people trust too much to the galleries. They don't trust the artists who exhibit there, but they trust the prestige of the galleries and the things they say. Like, they try to sell people something exclusive, or they try to manipulate people, and artificially to high up the prices to say, oh, this artist did that and that, but it's only one or two works exist, etc. Even though a person maybe loves that piece in the corner, it just speaks to them, but they would listen to the gallery owners or people who represent the gallery because they trust them. People don't believe that they have taste. Unfortunately, I don't know why people are so intimidated to go to the galleries and admit that they love certain pieces because it speaks to them, but they would rather listen to people who work there. And unfortunately, that's the way it works.
That brings up a lot of things, including art education, which there hasn't been as much of in the last years, and the fact that the United States, I mean, the budget they give for art is ridiculously low. I think that's I must say, I think I recently was on a panel at Gail Levin, if you know her, the art historian. We've become close friends, and I was on I went to speak to her class at Baruch recently, and there was a young man there, and also a Chinese artist. We all talked about our work, and we got into a discussion, especially with the younger man, about the fact that he said the younger generation is really really making it more of a commercial thing of their art. And then when a critic says something, he says, and he's doing well. And he said, I go out there, and if a critic or a gallery or somebody says something, I go out and we can defend ourselves. The fact that we have social media has also thrown a wrench into the gallery systems. I mean, the galleries are kind of struggling because, you know, kids, they're looking at this thing. I mean, and we are too, with all these images. When I grew up, you know, if I wanted to go see art, short of being in my own home, my parents, I would have to go to a museum. And now, you know, museums are struggling because we're out there putting out art, and it's a huge revolution. I mean, I thought it would be, but it's, you know, just because we predict something doesn't mean it doesn't hurt you as well. Like the early digital artists, we knew we were onto something. We didn't even know why we were painting with pixels. You know, we knew that our canvases were filling up. But it has become a real revolution, but it's fascinating. And artists really have more control than ever. Like we can put this video out and people can hear it, and it'll be interesting to them, you know, because we're really talking what's going on in the trade and beyond, for the world in terms of digital art. I know I say sentences that talk about things at once. So, you know, go, now what? But this is a wonderful discussion. I think it's more interesting than the more academic that's just, you know, we don't need to just put, I think it's been a wonderful discussion with all of you. And I don't think maybe we don't show our work because I didn't prepare us for that. So why don't we just talk a little, and we'll make this when we do our article, which we should probably talk about a little later, but I don't think we need to share our work so much. Is that okay with you guys? Because I think just this discussion could be an addendum to our article where we put up a few pieces and we each say a couple of things, you know, in the article. And then we go, look, if you'd like to listen into their conversation, here it is, because we can just get the Zoom link and they can go into it. Fleur?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yes. So it's you would mean it's a two, like it's an article and a video, and it's like educational for other now artists who are interested in knowing more about what it means to be a digital artist.
Yeah.
And the difficulties or the way things are changing now for artists who are
It
working.
is changing.
Yeah, I'd rather be that. I'm sure we all have resumes where we've done things and accomplished things. And of course, I think we should include that. The resume should be there so people can look at our work and see our accomplishments. But I honestly, I don't think it should all be about, I've done this, I've done that. You know, I mean, we all have, I mean, maybe a little bit about what you think is your most important thing that you've done in digital media. But I think sharing the ups and downs of it, like the choices that Mayya just brought up, that's the kind of thing that honestly, I think artists are more interested in reading than I went to this and I studied at a school and I got so many, and I was awarded this and that. I mean, these things are
That
important.
doesn't mean anything. It really
Not
doesn't.
really. It does a little bit.
Even for us, it's more interesting to, you know, share what we went through and how we find solutions, or, you know, our doubts, because we're probably sharing more of our doubts than, you know, anything else. Each artist has different paths, but
Yeah.
we're all going through doubts and, you know, insecurities. So,
Yeah.
like, for example, for a very long time, I wasn't showing my digital art because I thought that, strangely, like it didn't have enough value in the fact of it was not done with paint and brushes, and that I couldn't defend it. And then during COVID, I had the chance to win like a mentorship. Like I had a mentor with whom I discussed that because she's also, you know, working in the digital printing type of art world. And we discussed it, and she's like, yeah, I really, really like your digital work. You should show it.
Mm.
You know, and it's because I had someone telling me that I could trust my work. And after that, you know, I realized how hard I was working on those pieces.
Yeah.
It's not because they're on my screen, like on my little iPad screen, and not like, you know, huge paintings in my studios, that the time I spent on making them, and the doubts, and the fact that, you know, yes, we can erase a layer like in one touch, and we can add another layer just with one touch, and decide between that layer and that other layer which one is working the best. But you can spend like hours between those two layers trying to really define them and change them, and it's really
Excellent point.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
And so
Tools.
and honestly, my digital work is always the slowest one that I make. Like finishing a piece it takes me months. And so like when I paint on canvas, when I do an acrylic or a mixed media, or I can spend weeks on it, but I feel that I'm going to end up with something faster, in a way that it's taking shape in front of my eyes on a canvas, like on something that I can touch. Digital work needs to be printed, or like takes shape outside of the iPad or the screen, to just for me to make sure my eyes see it, without
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
the light that's coming from behind it, because the screen has its light built in. It's losing when it's put on another surface. So I'm playing with also, how do I print? And I'm only working with one printer. Like there is only one lab that I'm working with, because that's really what I want the result to be when I print my work. And that lab is in California.
Yeah, I work with one in California, and I've been through about 7 or 8 different labs. And so I use one lab for acrylic, and then another one for canvases or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I need to go back to the galleries. The gallery owners do not see how precise we are with that digital work that we're creating, like during the creation of it, but then after the on which, on what we want it to be, what's going to be the final result of it, what are we going to show, which can also be only completely digital, like stay digital and be with a projector, projected on a wall, and stay completely untouchable.
Yeah,
So-
it can, when you do a piece, you can go, as it evolves. I feel like in terms of the commercial value of going out to even something that's one of a kind, it's like taking a digital piece when you start it. I'm always thinking, oh, is this going to be above my collector's mantle? If it's commission, is it going to be in a museum? Will it be on the wall? Per your point of huge projection, how much of a resolution do I bring to the piece? This is sometimes beyond iPad, because some of the pieces I make would explode in an iPad just because they're larger pieces and there are lots of imagery in here. I mean, I even got a note from Photoshop one time that said, you have exceeded you have exceeded
I
your limit.
remember.
I mean, this is a 1 gigabyte file. But it is fascinating that we can go out to any medium. It's like from immortality or an ephemeral kind of thing out to finite, stable, something that exists in the world. And that, if the galleries can get that idea, my God, I mean, that's a commercial but good and even elite sort of thing, where, oh, you will have the only pale mail that is in stained glass in the world, or you will have the only pale mail that goes out to terracotta. We're at that place. If those mediums can work with us, we can do it. And that's coming, I think.
If it's expressed in the right venue like NAWA for the public to see and embrace, I mean, we're the voices for that.
Right. And it's a growing movement. It really is. I'm one of the grandmothers here. So I prefer to call myself a digital goddess, of course, but yeah, but I really like hearing what young people are doing, and it's exciting. I did want to say, and Mayya, I want to hear a few more words from you about your work. I think we all would, but I did want to say, what do you think about us having this alongside an article where, if you're okay with it, I could send you, I was going to be an interviewer moderator, and then I can't always interrupt everybody all the time either. I'm very bad at that, so I'm sorry. I just get excited.
It's all fine.
I know someone gave me a t-shirt and it said, I don't mean to interrupt, I just get very excited about everything. So please forgive me, but it's just my personality. But I thought, if I put down some questions similar to what we've said, the key issues, and send it to you, and you each, I kind of get from Sarah or the editors how much they want from each of us. Would that maybe be a good format? Because then we're not just all writing in about I could say, how did you just make it like 3 major questions, when did you start in digital? And you say it a little bit, and then, oh, show us a few pieces. How do you make your pieces? And
Yeah,
3, what are
that
the
would
problems?
work. It would make perfect sense, I think. It would
Does that
be
make sense to you?
yeah. Yeah.
I'll send you the questions and you can tell me. I think we only should probably have 3 or 4 so it doesn't get too long, but I'll send you the questions after this meeting and you can write back and say, yes, I like that, or no, I think this would be better. And then I'll find out from Sarah or someone how long. And it's okay for that to be recorded because other people are going to be doing this too. Who knows, maybe new kind of format that they can do. But before we close, and I think we probably should, we're getting close to an hour. This has been great. I want to give everybody fair time. And Mayya, you brought up some great questions with your choices and everything. Do you want to talk a little bit more about your work?
Yeah, I'll get to that too. I keep thinking about one point I wanted to bring up, that digital art often comes as a rescue to me, in terms of when I have the idea and I want to paint it right now, but instead of going and buying those huge canvases and worrying about if I'm gonna sell it or not, or if it's gonna just, sit there in my room, taking up the space, you can go as big as you want with digital art. And that gives you freedom. I love that. You're not limited by the, you don't have to spend all that insane amount of money on tools,
Yes.
on
And
supplies.
keep going, but the point too that people make, and this is very important, I think, for the value of our medium. This is being in this a long time and thinking about this. When you put something up on the web and it's 3 inches high at 72 dpi, they can't copy that and make it into the size that you have. And that needs to be told because people think, oh, you put it online and everybody can just take it. And we have to be smart about what we put up, that it can't be blown up too large or copied. So, but please keep going. Those were great points about, the size of it.
Yeah, and the size of it. And I wanted to agree with Fleur about how much work it takes. I know I said that you can erase it and it sounded like I think it's easier. It's not. I know it's hard. I struggle with it too. So you have so many creative choices to make when you work on a digital piece. Sometimes it's even harder to to stay true to your aesthetics, because you can go either direction, but you have to stay focused on your goal, your initial idea. It takes a lot of hard work, mental work, your soul, your skills, everything together. So people underestimate digital art for sure. They think it's some cartoons, drawn in 5 minutes. It's not. It's just a different medium. It's a different tool. And a great point about printing, your work doesn't stop when you finish the piece. It's only in maybe 70% of your entire project. Now you have to think about the colors, if it's gonna come out too dark, or you're gonna lose some details in the printing, the surface you're gonna print it on. So many things to think about. So it's still exciting, and
Yes.
maybe it's more commercial, definitely, but it's great for for commissions, because it's so much easier to go back and forth with people if you want to change the whole color of the piece, and instead of painting it over, you do it in your way. It's a new way to make art. Why not? I love it.
That is great. And I always point back to the Renaissance because it was a high time in art where the art was part of the fabric of society. And it wasn't just you went to the galleries. I mean, at least in the 17th century, with the Dutch, everybody had like 20 paintings, and just the middle, it was a huge rise of the middle class, of having art on their walls. And I think that there's a democratization that goes along with digital that is threatening to an elitist structure. But I do think that we can work with that democracy in mind, but at the same time, even though you do pieces that are somewhat commercial, like Michelangelo and all those people, those guys and a few women, you know, they didn't paint everything they wanted. You had to go do the Duchess of Windsor, and you know, because they had to make money and live.
It's all
But then
commission.
yes, but then there are masterpieces that rise to the top. You know, you don't make a Pieta every day, but you know when you're doing something that is beyond that, and it isn't in the commercial realm. So those realms coexist. And I think we are in for a real, even increasing exciting time with digital. I think we're going to wrap it up unless someone just has to say something. If it's okay with you guys, this has been a very intriguing discussion. Does anybody want to add one more thing before we sign off and start our next dialogue for our article?
Yeah, we need to share that with gallerists.
Yes,
Share
yes.
what?
Yes.
Share this
Share,
what?
share the information, share the, you know, the article, and
Did
share,
it?
you know,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've done locally in Sarasota, where we've had multiple fine art galleries closed down. But now, like, I'm part of a gallery called Define that is really embracing new media. And that's the one that's selling right now. So
Great.
let's
that's
change the language and
let's do.
teach.
Absolutely. All right. This has been really exciting. It's been wonderful to get to know you. And let's continue work on our article. And I'm going to stop the recording. Where is record?